Dodger Heads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Medium Large Sports Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined today by Blake Williams, Matthew Moreno, and soon-to-be Scott Gearman, here to tell you that you had to wait until December 27th. All right, but Teoscar Hernandez, the man that every single person in my mentions has been asking about for the last 2 months, is officially back on basically the deal, Blake, that everybody expected him to sign. 3 years, $66 million. There's some bonuses, deferrals. We'll get into all of that. But the headline, Blake, Teoscar Hernandez is back.
Yeah, it's a good move for the Dodgers. It's kind of what we expected to happen for a very long time. I think everyone on our show said it was like 90% odds plus that he'd be back with the Dodgers. And it took a little bit longer. I'm surprised the contract is the exact value it came out as, especially when you include the deferrals and all that. But I'm happy with it. I hope Teoscar's happy. I'm sure every fan is happy. And it seems like a great deal all around for the Dodgers.
Yeah, Matt, again, I was trying to calm people down repeatedly that it's going to happen. Everybody, like, there are no mystery teams floating around that desperately wanted this guy as much as it was clear the Dodgers wanted him. And it was just a matter of haggling over the amount of deferrals, the signing bonus. Apparently there's a team option involved. Again, we'll get into the specifics in a minute, Matt, but did you ever get to a place in the last few weeks where you really thought that he was going to end up, much like Walker Buehler, signing a contract with another team?
Not too much. I mean, if this had dragged on for another week or 10 days, then it wouldn't have fully shocked me if the Dodgers just said, okay, look, like, we have to pivot because there are other things we need to figure out with our roster. You know, and I know that I did express once Juan Soto signed, I thought, okay, you know, he went to the Mets. Now, are the Yankees and Red Sox going to get aggressive for Teoscar Hernandez? That didn't happen. And so when that didn't happen, I thought, okay, it's only a matter of time until the Dodgers and Teoscar figure something out. So, yeah, I mean, I do think that the Dodgers were the favorite all along, even with, you know, some of the different things that have happened over the past week. But, you know, had this continued, you know, this impasse, the stalemate, whatever you want to call it, had that continued into 2025, I think we would have maybe seen the Dodgers just say, okay, look, like, we have given you our best offer. Like, at this point, you're not accepting it. Like, we have to move on.
The mechanics of this, it's 3 years, $66 million. So 22 is the AAV, which is the low end of what everybody has been reporting. It was 22 to 24 million. He gets 22. He gets $23 million in a signing bonus, as well as $23 million that are deferred. Plus, Matt, a 4th-year team option that is worth $15 million should that ultimately get picked up. What strikes you about, is there one of those numbers that jumps out? Is it the 22 AAV? Is it the 23 in deferrals? Is it the team option? Which part of this contract is most surprising to you?
A tie between, not that they deferred salary, but how much of the salary is deferred, because, you know, there were some crumbs that were dropped along the way. And I see, Jeff, that's a nice cup you have there.
Oh, excuse me. Is that my Freddie Freeman MVP World Series MVP mug that I got for Christmas? I don't know how that got here.
Yeah. Merry Christmas to everybody. Jeff's new cup, Teoscar Hernandez. It's a great time if you're following the Dodgers right now. But the how much salary is deferred surprised me a little bit, just from the standpoint of, like, that seemed to be somewhat of a sticking point. And the team option, that's also a little bit shocking, just because I don't know, like, what are the odds that the Dodgers really pick that up? So I can't imagine, like, who did Teoscar want? Like, was his camp saying, hey, we want a little bit of long-term stability and at least the potential that you keep him around? Like, I guess maybe, but those are the two things that probably surprised me the most.
Well, and look, with a team option, there's a chance maybe there's a few million bucks as a buyout involved. So, you know, so it's getting reported for 366. You know, you look at Chris Taylor's contract and some of these Max Muncy's with some of these team options coming up. There's typically like somewhere between a $1 and $5 million buyout. So maybe he's got a few million bucks tagged on there. Blake, I'll ask you the same question. 3 years, $66 million, $23 million signing bonus, 23 deferrals, and then a team option. What jumps out to you about the specifics, according to Jeff Passan?
I'm surprised at the total value of the deal. I thought he would be looking at more after the season he just had. 22 million AAV is pretty low already for a player of his caliber. And when you add in the deferrals and everything, it's probably going to be a bit lower than that for the actual total value. So on the Dodgers end, it seems like a really great value for them. I think Teoscar didn't get the market he was hoping for. The defense is a concern. How his bat ages is a concern. Like, as much as we love Teoscar and as great of a signing it is for the Dodgers right now, there are long-term concerns. And I think that coupled with him having the qualifying offer attached really dragged down the value for other teams. So like it's pretty in line with where he was hoping and trying to get, but it is a little below what I thought he'd end up getting. So I think just that total value is the most surprising part to me. And related to the team option at the end, I'd be pretty surprised if it isn't just a way to get him some more money with a buyout. It's probably like $5 million or something on there at the end, just so when he eventually becomes a free agent again, he'll get another $5 million added to his deal.
Now, Blake, I know you were skeptical of kind of the length of contract with Teoscar. To somebody like you, because I don't know if I don't love a third year. I definitely would have maybe hated a fourth year on this. But for somebody like me, I know you feel even more strongly. Like if you look at this, if he had gotten 2 years for $52 million, and now the third year is just a $14 million tack on year. Like if you think about it that way, it kind of makes me feel a lot better because the AAV is so low. Does that resonate at all with kind of how you feel if you look at it as like a 2-year deal at a higher AAV and then the third year is kind of a wash?
I think so. Like that's a fair way to look at it. I said I'd be willing to give him like 270 or something like that, just to have a 2-year deal and give him that high AAV, which it was an extreme example, but that kind of thinking, just going for a higher AAV, shorter term deal. So if he wanted to spread it out an extra year and there is a chance he's still a productive player in that third year, I probably wouldn't bet on that, but like it's okay to overpay a guy for an extra year just to have him around. And they've kind of done it with some players like Chris Taylor. We're at the back end of that contract, but for a very long time, he was a really productive player on the team. So if you get another ring out of it, like you really don't care about paying for the extra year. And I think what also helps, like from that perspective, is the Dodgers are going to keep spending money. They're going to keep trying to be competitive no matter what. I don't think probably 20 million AAV or whatever it's going to be with the deferrals added in is going to prevent them from doing something, especially if it's only for 1 year. So if there's a guy on the free agent market or a trade they want to get, like it's Teoscar's deal isn't going to prevent them from going to make that deal. So I don't really have any problems with giving the third year at the end of the day, especially with the value where it's at.
So Jeff, real quick, Blake made a lot of great points. What I also heard through that, though, was some sadness that the Dodgers did not overpay for Walker Buehler to keep him around, because if you win a World Series, then it doesn't matter, right? Like that's the argument I've been making the entire time. So I'm glad, Blake, happy to have you on our side of the street now.
Very different scenarios there. Walker Buehler is coming off a very bad year where he was good for 10 innings, and Teoscar is coming off a fantastic year and also a great postseason. So,
okay.
Matt, don't get greedy here, okay? This is the closest we're ever going to get to everybody in the chat being happy and Blake being happy at the same time, okay? So, like, you know, let's just he's got a smile on his face right now. Let's try not to mess with the vibes too much, all right, Matt?
All right, my apologies.
Wait, I'm not happy. Tanner Scott is still a free agent. Where is he? What are they doing? Come on.
I know, and your guy Gleyber Torres signed today, so apologies to you on that. I was thinking of you when I got that update.
Why do you think Teoscar signed so quickly after that? The Dodgers had to move on.
Yeah, exactly. That was what the holdup was. We got a couple super chats here. Stockton Slap said we can trade him after year 2 where he can go DH. You know, Blake, I think there's probably some truth to this. Again, if the Dodgers are willing to eat some of that money in the third year or whatever, the defense is what we are most concerned about as far as the third year of this contract. And so there's a reasonable chance there's a team out there that would take a designated hitter for 1 year if Teoscar Hernandez remains somewhat productive offensively, right?
Yeah, I think that's probably a fair take. The defense is the main concern. I still have some concerns about his bat, how it ages. Power hitters tend to not age well, particularly. So, like, it's okay for right now. Like, I'm not concerned about him over the next 2 years, but that third year might be pushing it. And then if you're trying to trade him as a DH, might be a tougher sell if the bat's not there as much. But even if he's like maybe a 110 weighted runs created plus guy, which is a fairly significant drop off from last year, but still a productive player, you probably have to eat a bit of money, but you could still make that work. So I think it is fair logic there.
I should save this for when our guy Scott hops on eventually. But I mean, come on, year 3 is basically going to be JD Martinez in a couple of years, Blake. He's going to have a lot of value to somebody down the road.
Yeah, it won't be the Dodgers with Shohei Ohtani there, but yeah, maybe.
I think I was thinking in my head that 4th year team option was just like Shohei Ohtani catastrophic injury insurance in the 4th year, where it's like, well, if we need a DH in 4 years for some reason. Stockton slaps with another one. He says, Matt, what was the holdup? Was it the sunflower seed budget? Is that what they were concerned about here?
Maybe they were finagling over what type of sunflower seeds are going to be in the dugout next season.
Yeah, what kind would you prefer, Matt?
Oh, I'm David Jumbo low sodium all the way.
God, okay, Blake.
I had these garlic parmesan ones. Drawing a blank on the name of the company right now. I gave Matt some cheddar jalapeno ones from them too.
I haven't cracked those open yet.
You remember the name?
No, I don't. I was trying to. Yeah, I was trying to.
Bougie sunflowers.
They also had some cinnamon churro ones.
That
were. They were solid. I mean, they have a lot of. Oh, they're called Smackin'. They're very popular online. So yeah,
all the kids, Jeff.
David Ranch. Just give me some classic David Ranch sunflower seeds, and I'll slice the crap out of my mouth, just pounding a whole bag on a road trip or something like that. Here you go. We got another super chat from Nick Blake, right up your alley. He says, "Love Teo, Tanner Scott and Kike still possible." The roster is, I believe, we're maybe full at 40 right now. Is either of you keeping track of this?
When it's official, I believe it would be at 40. I think they're at 39 right now. So
okay. So Blake, are Tanner Scott and Kike Hernandez still possible?
Yeah, I'd be surprised if the Dodgers don't make a trade at some point to clear up some roster space. Like Hunter Fiducia probably has more value to another team.
Hunter Fiducia is just screaming to be traded.
Yeah, I think we identified like one guy on the 40-man roster who they could DFA, but it's pretty crowded right now. I'd have to pull up to remember who it was, but their 40-man roster is in a very tough spot right now.
Yeah, it's to your point. There's not a lot of guys on there that you think could pass through. I mean, the one guy we had talked about, Michael Grove, possibly. I mean, he still very well could get traded, but by everything I can find is he still does have one more option year left, which I thought he was out of options. I think he has one more option year left, according to all the places I've looked. So protecting Jack Dreyer, he's on there. So obviously they would be afraid of him getting claimed because they protected him from the Rule 5 draft. But there's nobody else that screams, like they would pass through waivers for sure. So obviously a Chris Taylor trade is a possibility. James Outman's a guy who could be traded off the 40-man roster at some point, depending on what their sort of long-term view is as well. Austin Barnes could. I was just making sure Matt was still paying attention. Not even a flinch from our guy down there. So, So, I mean, they would have to get creative, Blake, is the point, in order to clear up some space for both Kike and Tanner Scott.
Yeah, I think Kike would sign more towards spring training, because once spring training opens up, then the 60-man opens, and then the Dodgers can put their injured guys who are going to be out for a while, like Bruce Dargratterall, on the 60-day, open up a roster spot. I don't think we're going to see Kershaw sign until spring training, when they could just immediately 60-day IL him. So it's going to be a little tough right now. You kind of got a roster crunch. You could probably fit like one more guy if you're willing to DFA Grove or Fiducia, or just trade them for some random prospect or something, which I'd still be surprised if one of them isn't traded at some point, or some kind of trade to open up roster space. But yeah, they're in a very tough spot right now, but it's not going to prevent them from going and add a Tanner Scott level player if they want to make that move.
Yeah, and to your point, once spring training opens, you mentioned Brewster. I mean, there's like 5 other dudes that are headed immediately to the 60-day IL once this thing. I mean, half of the pitchers, I think, on the 40-man roster are going to be on the 60-day IL when it starts. So Kershaw will not be around, but yeah, great question, Nick. And we were waiting for you, Laura. Laura has entered the chat. Teoscar's back. Let's go. Laura, great to have you. Congratulations. We told you, Laura, that it was going to be okay, that Teoscar was going to be back. So we appreciate the super chat. And yeah, he's back. He's back. Where's our guy Scott at? He said he was hopping on. Is he just like champagne? He spilled champagne all over the living room, or what? He was in the chat at one point.
Making sure his hair is perfect, getting completely set up for this.
Yeah, geez Louise. Got to get his got to get his whole vibe right. So again, if you missed it, Teoscar Hernandez, yes, he's back on a 3-year, $66 million deal. It's got a $23 million signing bonus, a $15 million 4th-year team option, and $23 million in deferrals. I love this tweet from Jeff Passan. The Los Angeles Dodgers are a machine. Not only do they print cash, their willingness to spend it in pursuit of winning is unmatched. They put their money where their mouth is. Others could benefit greatly from the same approach. They choose not to. There you go. And then somebody, I love Passan. My favorite Passan thing, just as a side note, is him responding to the people who respond to his tweet. So the first response is, other people don't put contracts on layaway, Jeff. And then he cites like 12 examples of other players that got deferred money. So, but I mean, this is the truth, right, Matt? A, they print money. B, they spend money. And everybody else in the league, to some degree, not to the degree the Dodgers do it, but to some, like this contract right here, $66 million, 3 years with 23 deferred. Anybody in the league could have afforded this contract, Matt, and they choose not to.
Yeah, I mean, keeping it to Teoscar specifically, I mean, the Yankees, the Blue Jays, the Red Sox, right, at one point were all mentioned as kind of serious bidders, along with the Dodgers for him, having interests in that. It wasn't like Juan Soto came off the board and the Dodgers quickly pivoted to make sure they locked up Teoscar Hernandez. Like,
right,
he was out there, and we put up an article today on DodgerBlue.com that the Giants were maybe going to be a possibility as well. So yeah, I mean, there were these teams that certainly could have been aggressive. It came out recently within the past few days that the Red Sox actually weren't being overly aggressive in their pursuit of Teoscar still, in spite of everything that was kind of going on. And so, yeah, I mean, maybe if it's not with him, maybe it was something with him specifically. Maybe there were concerns with, doing 3 years and fine. But yes, there are other players available. I mean, look, Corbin Burns is still out there. Like, there are other free agents. Zach Flaherty hasn't signed. Walker Buehler hadn't signed until recently. Santander. And even he got a 1-year deal. Santander is still out there. Like, figure out a way. I get, the Dodgers specifically, if we want to broaden this a little bit, they do have an advantage from the standpoint of being in a larger market, having their TV deal, like, affords them a little bit more comfort in, doing a bunch of these contracts, I think you could say, right? Like, it makes it a little bit easier. Obviously, Guggenheim being the ownership group makes it a lot easier too, because if there's anybody you want managing your money, it's probably somebody from them. But yes, I mean, the narrative, I know we've discussed it several times on this show, this idea that the Dodgers are the only team doing deferred salary and this and that, like, it's so tired. And I wish, like, we would kind of but I wish there would be kind of an evolution of just moving past that. Like, if you want to say Dodgers keep trying to spend money to win a World Series, like, let's go back to that. Honestly, like, that, I thought that was annoying, but let's just go back to that of, hey, the Dodgers are just trying to spend all their money to win a World Series. Like, I mean, yeah, if they do that and they win a World Series, then nobody's going to care.
Yeah. And I'm not entirely disagreeing with you. I think it's fair. The Dodgers are doing this to a degree that has never been done by anybody. And some people say, well, it's just Ohtani. No, take Ohtani off, and the Dodgers still have like 5 of the 6 or 7 biggest deferrals that have ever been done in Major League Baseball, or at least are active contracts with deferrals. And so I think there's something to it. But the point is, this is a tool that is available to every single person, every single team. And most of these teams aren't even using the money that they have, let alone like some complicated tool such as deferrals. So yeah, no pity from me, from the other teams that are not signing guys like Teoscar to a contract. And it's worth pointing out the Dodgers, can afford to pay Teoscar $66 million. But to the conversation Blake and I were having earlier, they can also afford to take a risk on a guy like Teoscar, because I think there are some smaller market teams that would argue it's not that we can't pay this contract. It's what if in 18 months he's not very good? The Dodgers can be like, whatever, $22 million AAV, write it off, pay the $5 million buyout, and we move along. Whereas, again, this contract would not cripple anybody, but there are teams that would cry poor, I think, a little bit more. So without further ado, our guy.
これで、オスカー・ヘルナンデス選手が正式にロサンゼルス・ドジャースに復帰することが決まりました。ドジャースファンにとって、このニュースは待ちに待った朗報であり、来シーズンへの期待がますます高まることでしょう。彼の復帰は単なる戦力強化にとどまらず、チーム全体に新たな活気と目標を与える大きな契機となるはずです。彼の豊富な経験と高いパフォーマンスは、若手選手にとっても素晴らしい手本となり、チーム全体の成長を促す要因になるでしょう。今回の契約を通じて、ドジャースがいかにして長期的な成功を視野に入れた戦略を展開しているかが改めて示されました。特に契約の内容には、ファー支払いの分割やチームオプションといった要素が含まれ、財務面でも柔軟性を確保しながら強力な戦力を維持することを 可能にしています。このような資金運用の巧みさは、現在の競争が激しいメジャーリーグにおいて、ドジャースを他チームから一線を画す存在にしています。また、オスカー選手自身も、この契約によって、新たな挑戦への意欲を一層高めていることでしょう。彼の強みである攻撃力と勝負強さ、そしてポストシーズンでの経験は、ドジャースが今後数年にわたって成功を収める上で欠かせない要素となります。特に重要な場面で結果を残してきた彼の実績は、プレーオフのような緊張感の高い試合において、チームを引っ張る力となるに違いありません。ドジャースの運営方針において特筆すべき点は、未来を見据えた機的な視野と、現状のチーム力を最大限に生かす短期的な柔軟性を見事に融合させている点です。彼らは常に競争力を維持し、ファンに最高の試合を提供することを使命としています。このような理念の下で結ばれた今回の契約は、ドジャースが今後も継続的に優れた成績を残していくことを示唆しています。さらに、今回の契約が持つ意義は、単にドジャース内部だけにとまらず、リーグ全体にも影響を与える可能性があります。他のチームにとっても、選手獲得や契約交渉における新たな方向性を考えるきっかけとなるでしょう。特に、デファーやチームオプションのような要素は、他チームにとっても財務戦略の模範として注目されるかもしれません。最後に、ドジャースファンの皆さんへお伝えしたいことがあります。このチームの成功を共に喜び、応援してくださる皆さんの存在が、選手たちやスタッフにとって何よりの力となっています。ドジャースが次のシーズンでさらなる高みを目指す中で、皆さんのサポートは欠かせません。この機会にぜひ私たちのチャンネルを登録していただき、最新情報や試合解説を一緒に楽しんでください。また、コメント欄で皆さんのご意見や期待をお聞かせいただければ、私たちのコンテンツをより充実させることができます。例えば、次にドジャースが獲得すべき選手や注目している試合など、皆さんの声をぜひお寄せください。それらのご意見は、私たちのコミュニティをさらに活気あるものにし、ドジャースを応援する楽しさを共有する場を広げていく一助となります。ロサンゼルス・ジャースは、これからも挑戦を続け、未来の成功を切り開いていくでしょう。オスカ選手の復帰をきっかけに、2024年シーズンが歴史に残る1年となることを心から願っています。ドジャースファンとして、共にその瞬間を楽しみ、応援していきましょう。